Right. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ash from Pebblebeach. Amy and Chelsea and Naomi are on the call as well. And we're a full-service agency down in Brighton, and we work mostly within the hospice movement, not exclusively. We work with a lot of hospitals and some other non-clinical charities as well, but a lot of our work is in the hospice movement. My background was as Director of Income Gen Comms Marketing for a big joint children's and adult service down here on the South Coast 15 years ago. And before that, I was National International Charities for 12 years before that. And we've been working with the hospice movement now since, as Pebblebeach, since 2008. And we've built up a lot of knowledge and experience about various things. And we've worked with over 100 hospices now right across the UK, delivering various bits and pieces. For some hospices, we're just someone that they can pick up the phone and ask advice of. Others, we are effectively their individual giving department, and we do pretty much everything. And so our purpose is to fit in around the needs of the individual hospice. One of the things that we obviously in the last few months, we've been focusing very much on emergency appeals. And for those of you that were here 2 weeks ago, we heard Amy talking about social media and online fundraising and the learnings that we've got from that. 2 weeks prior to that, I was talking about emergency campaigns and sharing some the experience of some of the emergency campaigns that we've delivered. Over the last few weeks, we've been speaking to a lot of different hospices, charities that we're working with currently, other hospices that we're not. And a common theme has been Light Up a Life. And so when we were thinking about the topic to cover this week, it was very clear that Light Up a Life was at the top of everyone's concerns list at the moment. So what we decided to do is to give you a quick presentation. Now, this is not us telling you what to do or what you should or shouldn't be doing. Every hospice is unique and special and wonderful and has its own quirks and idiosyncrasies, and we don't want you to lose those. What we're wanting to do is just to talk through almost a checklist of what are the opportunities we have, what are the challenges we face, and how do we deal with those challenges. We're not going to be able to give you an example because there are none. None of us have ever been here before, and we're all making this stuff up as we go along. So what we decided to do is to give you a view from Pebblebeach as if we were our own hospice. If we were our own hospice fundraising team, here's what we've decided that we would do, okay? We will miss some stuff. There will be some stuff that you will look at going, well, they haven't talked about that, and we do it, and it's amazing, and why haven't they talked about it? That's brilliant, because we don't know everything. There'll be some stuff that we talk about that maybe you don't do. But the point of this this morning is to share those thoughts, and then in the Q&A afterwards, answer any questions you may have, but also we're encouraging you to share some of those experiences and golden nuggets of advice that you will have that we haven't talked about, okay? So 25-minute presentation. I warn you now, my team are having a sweepstake on how far over that I go. I'm going to really try and keep it short and sweet this morning, okay? Q&A session afterwards. Please use the chat function on Zoom to type in your questions. You'll find the chat function at the bottom of the screen. But if you'd like to have a conversation in more detail, if you just want to talk to us or pick a brain or ask a question, etc., then just drop us an email at hello@pebblebeachfundraising.com, and we'll get back to you and have a one-to-one conversation, okay? So here is Pebblebeach Hospice. So Pebblebeach Hospice is a full service hospice. We do everything. So we've got IPU, we've got community, hospice at home, living well centre, all the kind of schmear, all the stuff that you'd want in your hospice, okay? And we're very lucky. We're in a suburban setting for Pebblebeach Hospice, which means that we've got plenty of space and an enormous car park. We have a ridiculously sized car park. You couldn't believe the number of cars that we can get there without anyone moaning about it. So that's the first priority. Hospice is tiny, car park is huge. We have our Light Up a Life held on site, and it's a traditional Light Up a Life. Oh, first, if I say Light Up a Life, I know some of you are screaming at me right now going, it's Lights of Love or Lights to Remember or some other format. I apologize. We love you all. I'm going to say Light Up a Life for the rest of this thing, okay? But when I say Light Up a Life, hear the name of your own thing, okay? So Light Up a Life for us is held on site, and it's very traditional. It's readings and music, and we have a large Christmas tree, as is a tree. Other hospitals don't have trees. They have lights on a building or lights on something, or we have a tree. And so our Christmas tree is lights, and we have remembrance cards that families have, and they come and they tie the cards on the tree. That's standard Light Up a Life, okay? And that's obviously our experience. We've worked with many hospices over the years on Light Up a Life. It's a traditional, classic structure and setup, and that's what Pebblebeach Hospice is, okay? So here's what we're going to talk about. How are we, Pebblebeach, going to approach our Light Up a Life this year? And we're going to look at our audiences, right? Who are we communicating with? What's our offer? What interaction, what engagement opportunities are we going to give that audience? How do we communicate that? What's the time scale? And it's worrying. It's not that long away. It's not that far away. And what's the message? What's the substance of the communication that we're offering? Okay, so first thing to talk about is audiences. So we have Pebblebeach Hospice, we have a database of supporters, and within that database we have existing Light Up a Life donors, people who've been there and done that before. We have everyone else. We have people who've made donations, we have people who've not made donations, but they've fundraised for us and they've given different things. And we've also, of course, got recently bereaved. And the decision that we've made is that, and this is a central point that I want to make, and this is me getting on my little pulpit for a minute, I passionately believe that this is the most important Light Up a Life that any of us will ever have been part of. It is the greatest opportunity, in my view, for the hospice movement to position itself as the organization that embraces its local community and offers the opportunity to remember and celebrate. Yeah. A lot of us have Light Up a Lives that are just focused within our internal walls, and we deal with our own audiences, we deal with our own supporter base. And I know many have tried and many have had success about reaching out beyond the hospice walls in previous years, but it is a tough sell. If ever there was an opportunity for the hospice movement to reach out beyond those who have accessed hospice care, this is the year to do so. The challenge is, how do we do that within a reasonable budget? And with success. So we're going to talk about that. So the starting point, therefore, has to be this internal audience. So of course, as every hospice does, our strongest audience, the people that are most likely to participate and, because we are fundraisers, to give, are going to be previous Light Up a Life supporters. And we know, for those of you that have had the conversation with us about data, you'll know that we have a data model that we apply for Light Up a Life that looks at their previous giving history of the entire database and makes a prediction about likely future income to the Light Up a Life based on that transactional history. And what we know, guaranteed 100%, is that those donors who have given to Light Up a Life before, who are multiple donors, who are higher value donors, they are going to be the ones that are most likely to respond. And when they do, they'll give the most money. And scarily, we usually find that about 2/3 of all income to Light Up a Life comes from this tiny audience that actually has given to Light Up a Life before, has given multiple gifts. And so it's incredibly important to focus on those donors. However, one of the challenges that we at Pebblebeach Hospice have, and this goes to my fourth point on the slide here, is we arrived as the fundraising team to Pebblebeach Hospice and discovered that we have a privacy policy. And our privacy policy says that we only communicate with people who've given within the last 3 years. And that is something that is familiar and common for many hospices around the country. And for some it's 3 years, for some it's 5 years, for some it's 2. One hospice we work with is 18 months. Now the problem is, and I was having this conversation with a hospice yesterday, and we were looking through their data. If we apply to any database, any timed cutoff, 3 years, 5 years, doesn't matter what it is, there will always be donors who just creep into that selection, who just creep into the we're allowed to communicate with them group, who are very low value, one-time givers, who may have given us £5 just before 3 years ago. So 35 months ago, they gave us a £5 as an in-memoriam donation. If we apply this blanket communication policy of, let's say, 3 years, we're going to include that individual. But we're not going to include the individual who hasn't now given for 37 months, but has given hundreds or thousands of pounds over a multi-year period, but simply didn't, to the fact that they haven't given for 37 months, we now guillotine them out and we don't communicate with them. What we know proven time and time again from all the data work that we've done is that a light up life donor, particularly for light up life, someone who's got a previous history of light up life, if they are a multiple giver and a higher value giver, then they are always going to be vastly more profitable and likely to respond than those one-off in memoriam givers more recently. And so our policy is to not have a date cut off at all. We don't mail everyone, we don't communicate and fundraise to everyone. What we do is we select our audience based on their likelihood to respond. And someone who has been a significant donor in the past, who has given multiple times, is still much, much more likely, 10 or 20 times more likely to be profitable than a single one-off donor who hasn't given for over a year. So the challenge is, and I was having this conversation yesterday, sometimes those privacy policies now, GDPR has really hamstrung a number of us, I know. And where the hospice has gone opt-in, your choices are limited. An example of how we got around that for one of our hospice partners was that their opt-in, they only asked people within 5 years. So they only actually opted in donors who had made a contribution within the last 5 years. They lost more than 2/3 of their data, even though they did a really comprehensive opt-in trawl. So we were able to go out to that third. We then asked them, those donors beyond 5 years, and it was agreed up to 10 years, could we look at those donors because they hadn't been asked to opt in? Legitimate interest could still apply in those cases. Can we go and find some more donors? We did. We found another 2,000 donors. They were sent a standard cash appeal, and they made a return investment 3-1, and we reactivated quite a few of those donors. So for Light Up a Life, Pebblebeach Hospice, with this privacy policy, we want to go out to absolutely everybody, because we think if ever anyone is going to be reactivated and motivated to come back and support us, it's going to be now. So the way that we're going to do that, we don't have an opt-in policy to worry about. We have a privacy policy that creates a rule, but we've created that rule ourselves. So our method around that is we're going to rewrite our privacy policy. We're going to change our privacy policy to say that in these circumstances, it is vital that we reach out to everyone in our community who understands the value of our care, and we ask them to opportunities to engage and to support. So we were going to change our privacy policy. We're going to put that privacy policy on the website, and then we're going to apply that new privacy policy, because the ICO has said as long as you put that policy in place 28 days before and you leave it for 28 days and you inform people that the privacy policy has changed, then you can do that. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to let people know when we communicate with them that if you'd like us to change how we communicate, or if you'd like to take yourself off our list, that's absolutely fine. Here's how you tell us. Where we have done that in the past, there have been, as far as I'm aware, there have been no complaints about that. No one has, particularly recently, no one is annoyed that the local hospice is reaching out to them. So that's what we're going to do to try and expand our horizon. I want to go out to everyone who's ever supported Light Up a Life within reason. Certainly multiple donors, certainly high value donors. I also want to reach out to other donors on our database. So in-mem donors, general donors, rafflers, lottery players, etc., etc. Again, this is a one-off opportunity. And I also want to reach out to people that have fundraised in the past, but they haven't given because they can't be out fundraising for us. But again, the opportunity to come in and support and the opportunity to reach out to them is important. Recently bereaved, also extremely important, because often we found that bereavement teams are very worried about having a financial ask. That big, strong financial Light Up a Life ask going to people that have just lost a loved one is not appropriate. We completely understand that. Many times over the years, we have delivered a Light Up a Life campaign that is financial and fundraising for a fundraising audience, but then we've simply stripped the fundraising element out of it and provided a non-financial version, simply a version that says, here's the event, here's the activity, come and engage, but it's still on brand, printed nicely with the right information, with a letter that makes sense, and that's given to the bereavement team for them to use for their audience. But it's really, really important that the recently bereaved, obviously, particularly this year, are considered. So that's the warm audience. So it's much more extensive, much more ambitious. And certainly the results that we've been seeing from all the emergency appeals and the crisis appeals, the resilience fund appeals or fighting fund appeals that we've delivered, we've been seeing 3, 4, 5 times the response that we would normally expect to see to a cash appeal. So again, it gives us confidence to think that actually that expression of support is likely to continue, and therefore let's be a bit more confident with our audience selection this time. Okay, second audience is cold. I believe that the hospice movement has an opportunity to be the repository of remembrance celebration for the entire country. No one else has the opportunity to put boots on the ground to actually offer something locally that people can engage with in their community. National charities are already talking about trying to take ownership of this space. If you see, Marie Curie, for example, have announced that they want to see a National Day of Remembrance in March next year. Brilliant, that's absolutely fine. Applaud and support that. But when it comes to allowing families the opportunity to actually do something, to engage in an act of remembrance celebration, Marie Curie can't deliver that, Cancer Research can't do that, Macmillan can't do that, the local hospice can. But we've all got to step up, in my view, and give everyone in the community, not just those who've been cared for by the hospice, but to give everyone. Think of the number of people and the interaction you've got with your hospices and the local NHS and the local hospital. We're all working as one big team now clinically. We need to do that on the comms and fundraising side as well, in my view. And I think there are three distinct groups. There's those who have lost a loved one to COVID-19. Of course, we want to reach out and say, we recognize your pain and your suffering and your grief, and we want to be able to provide you with an opportunity to bring back that positivity in the memory and the experiences that you have with that loved one. And here's how we can offer you that opportunity. There are also many, many people that have died of other stuff, but because of COVID-19, their loved ones have not been able to be with them, funerals have not been able to be held, etc. So again, where is that opportunity for those families, for those loved ones to come together and express their grief and express their remembrance? I also think that this is an opportunity for us as a movement to reach out to NHS, our own staff, but NHS and healthcare workers as well. We've all seen the stories of the incredible dedication and personal commitment. And I know many of the hospices we're working with, I love the fact that a couple of them have got wobble rooms that they set up for their staff. So if staff members having a bit of a wobble, they can go and sit down and have a drink, and colouring books and jigsaws are my favourite when they go and do that. So we recognise that these are human beings. And these frontline staff have been witnessing almost a warlike situation. They've been witnessing death and loss on an almost daily basis. That has an effect. Therefore, just as the public has been reaching out to support NHS staff and frontline nursing staff through fundraising, why should we not use this as an opportunity to reach out to them on an emotional level and say, come and be part of that. We'll support you as well. We recognize that you're feeling this emotion, you're feeling this grief. They will have lost loved ones personally, but they will have also lost patients, and they will have those experiences. This is, for me, an opportunity to extend that to staff as well. And my final point there is that for almost always, for the hospices we've been supporting, bereavement services have been extended to the entire community, working with local hospitals, etc. The barriers have come down, the walls have come down, and every clinical team I've been speaking to has said, that's brilliant. This new way of working, these changes that we've been forced to implement that actually would have taken years to deliver had we not had this crisis. We've achieved so much, we've achieved so much positivity and in that change, we don't want to lose that now. So my view is bereavement services extend to the whole community, therefore why not light up a life? Surely we should be extending our remembrance and celebration offering to the entire community as well. Right, our Light Up a Life offer. I'm going to start whizzing through a little quicker. Our main event goes ahead, but we've decided we're going to do it without a congregation. So we're going to have our tree, we're going to have lights in the tree, we're going to have the event, we're going to have songs, we're going to have readings, we're going to have carols, but we're going to do it without a congregation. And we've taken that decision because we don't know whether or not we're going to be able to have people gathered in our extensive, massive car park in the middle of December. It is possible that large gatherings like that will be possible at that time of year, but equally, there is a significant risk that those will not be possible, that they would have to be distanced, etc. So rather than banking on having our delivery and our offer of engagement and remembrance being the gathering and the thing, risking that we're not going to be able to do that, we've taken the decision right now not to even attempt it this year. So what we're going to have is our service in the place that it would normally be, with the participants, with choirs and readings, etc., etc., etc. But we're not going to have a congregation. We think it's too risky. financially as well. If our engagement opportunity is you have to come, and a lot of hospices, Light Up Life means you have to turn up. So what do we do when vast majority of people either won't be able to turn up or won't feel comfortable about it? There's many, many people that will not want to be part of a large crowd, even in December. And for those clinicians that I've been speaking to, what I've been hearing is that gathering together in large groups, that's probably not going to be a thing until September, October next year. So we've taken the decision for Pebblebeach Hospice not to go down that route. We want something that we know is going to work, that we can deliver, and that we don't have to change our mind. But as we say there, if the rules are relaxed, if suddenly we're being overly pessimistic, then that allows us to open that up, and at a later time we can invite people in. So particularly recently bereaved, maybe our VIPs, maybe our best supporters, etc., whatever decision we make. But by taking that decision to not have the big gathering with the opportunity to open it up later, we protect ourselves because we know what we're doing. So the main event with participants only, socially distanced. We're going to have local dignitaries. We're going to have faith leaders. Again, we're going to have this as an opportunity. We're going to invite the MP in. We're going to invite faith leaders in. We're going to invite some of our patrons in. We're going to have staff being asked to speak. Because we're Pebblebeach Hospice and we're down in Brighton, we've decided that our keynote speaker is going to be Steve Coogan, and then Adele will stand and gently sing to the audience while the lights on the tree, because we can do that because we're Pebblebeach Hospice, right? But the point is, we're going to have something that is, we're going to keep going. We're going to deliver something that is moving, that is memorable, that is emotive, but we're also then going to live stream that. So that's how we're going to invite people to take part. We're going to live stream on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and we expect the vast majority of take up to that live streaming will be on YouTube. The next will be Facebook. A very small percentage and proportion will be on Instagram. So we're going to make sure that we've got that. That presents challenges to us. We are not a film crew. So we're going to need to make sure that we've got A, decent camera setup, B, sound and light, so that people can see it and people can hear it. Now, that may well mean for us, we're going to have to go and talk to a local production company about getting a 1 or 2 camera setup. There may be some cost to that. We'll try and get it pro bono if we can. There may be some cost to it, but we're definitely going to do it because we want to be able to make sure that we deliver something that has that resonance and beauty to it as well. There's going to be an enormous tree in the car park, and it's going to have thousands of lights on it. One of the hospices we worked with many years ago, their trustee turned around to the fundraising team and said, "I'm going to do the tree and lights this year. I've got a contact. Don't you worry, leave it with me." And the fundraising team went, "Okay, fine." 3 days before Light Up a Life, the trustee turned up in a transit van with the tree in the back, because it fitted in a transit van, and 1 string of B&Q lights on it, and went, "There you go." And it was the most minky tree you've ever seen in your entire life. And we can't be doing that ever, but particularly this year. If we're going to have anything, we're going to have a tree, if we're going to have lights on the side of the building, if we're going to have whatever, torchlight processions that, or we're going to have people lighting candles or glow sticks or whatever it's going to be, and we've seen all of those, then it has to be enormous. It has to be over the top. The example, sorry guys, I don't know if you're there, but if anyone's there from St Luke's in Sheffield, hello, love you dearly. Your Festival of Light is fantastic. In Sheffield, for those who don't know, they have an enormous garden and car park, and they illuminate the entire thing with lights in the bushes, and there's an enormous oak tree with a whole net of lights over it. It's a pain for the fundraising team. It takes them ages, and there's so many lights. But it looks magnificent. And when you're there, you really feel that you're part of something incredibly special. I know St Barnabas Links are here as well. And they have a torchlit procession, literally meter-long flaming torches and people walking along and pipe bands, etc. It's an event. It's something special. So in all the times that we've been involved in Light Up a Life, those hospices that go for it, that do the extraordinary, that get a bit silly with it, they get a bit passionate about it, they go over the top, those are the ones where they work the best, where they really make a difference. And the objections of trustees and CEOs to, "Oh no, it's a bit over the top, let's just do something simple." No, this is about remembrance, celebration. Our event and the scale and passion of our event should match the scale and passion of the love that people have for the people they're remembering. We've got to match those two up. Give them something superb. So for us, we're going to have a tree with 1,000 lights. Right. So our idea for how we deliver interaction is that final bit there. After the event, after the tree's been lit, after we've live streamed it, we're then going to open the grounds and that tree with a one-way circuit, come and visit, etc. And people can come and visit the tree and tie their remembrance tags onto the tree. But we're going to have a simple timed online booking system where you come and book a slot, and there's a certain number of slots every half hour. And you simply go onto the website, which half-hour slots are available, you book that in, you get a code, brilliant, there you go, you're going to come on that. We're not going to police it overly, but it's just about making sure that we don't have everyone at the same space. But those who want to turn up, particularly those, and think about this, particularly those individuals who for the last 20 years, they've been to Light Up Alive, they've turned up, they've seen the tree, etc. And now suddenly we're saying you can't come. We want them to come. We want to give them that opportunity, but in a safe way. So the way that we've decided to do that is by having this over a week or 10 days or whatever it's going to be, an opportunity to come to the hospice, to tie the tag on, to see the tree. And we'll have music playing by the tree and all that kind of stuff. But it's very much intended that people will come, spend a short amount of time in front of the tree, and then go again. And we'll open that opportunity up. And also, because we're ruthless, cynical, heartless fundraisers, we're going to have a contactless donation point right next to the tree. Okay? 45 quid limit now, of course. We're also going to capture and store all the names of the loved ones. If we don't do that already, some of you will do that. And if you do, then we're already going to be using that as part of the communication this year. But where we don't, we want to store and capture all the names of the loved ones. We're going to have those names and dedications to run at the bottom of the live stream. So all through that broadcast, we're going to have those names run and the dedications running along the bottom. You know, just like you'd see on, you know, TV, you know, all these TV programs we've been watching. So it's just a matter of putting that data in and running that across. We're also going to have a local paper photo pullout. So this is going to be part of our marketing. I'll talk about that in a sec. But what we also want is we're going to invite the local paper to come and do a photo, take some images, take some photos of the service, of the tree, etc., etc. And then we're going to ask them to print the center pages, center 4 pages, center 8 pages if there's enough content, that with a list of every single name being remembered. Because again, this gives the local paper the opportunity to engage with their community, but to be a place where if Nan's name's in the paper, you're going to go and buy the paper. And where we've done this in the past, the local paper's been really receptive to this because it gives them an opportunity to position themselves as a centre of community action, particularly this year, particularly in the midst of this crisis. Then that's an opportunity. Local papers are really struggling at the moment. There's an opportunity to engage with them. We're going to have the names on our website as well, obviously. We're then going to create a Light Up a Life at Home pack. So this is how, again, we're going to get around the fact that we can't have people at the hospice. We're going to send them their own little Light Up a Life at Home pack. And that will be a box. It's got to be a box because it's got stuff in it. And because it's a box, it's going to be more expensive to post. But we're going to accept that because actually the average donation is going to cover the cost of the postage. We're confident of that. And we're going to include 5 things in our Light Up a Life home pack. Again, some of you will already be doing this kind of stuff and you will have things that you send out that are better than this and more different and wonderful. Fantastic. We're going to have a votive candle. For those who don't know, votive candles, like a tea light candle, but a bit bigger, with a hard protective covering on it to protect it in the post. So we're going to send them that candle. We'll also have within that little box the event details and the order of service. So there'll be the list of readings, who's going to read them. There'll be the words to any songs and carols, etc., that are being sung. So the idea is that people can join us on the live stream at 7 o'clock on the Sunday, whatever it's going to be. And when we light our first candle, that's when they'll light their candle and they will take part in the service. And the reason we want to give them that opportunity on the live stream is there is going to be a significant amount of engagement with that. We don't know how much, but I was fascinated earlier this week with a conversation I was having with the Dean of Worcester Cathedral. So the cathedral are talking to us about helping them to raise money. They've lost £250,000 in revenue fundraising and they're struggling and they need help. And what was absolutely fascinating was the Dean was saying they've been doing online services. Yeah, their Monday morning service, 10 o'clock service on a Monday. Said we've been doing that for centuries. And said typically in the cathedral, middle of Worcester, we would have a congregation of about 4 or 5 people in the cathedral for a Monday morning service. They've put it online. They get 60 to 70 people taking part. So one of my bugbears has always been about Light Up Alive. And when I was at St Barnabas Hospice, looking at how do we extend this, what do you do if you can't turn up to the service? How do you access Light Up Alive? How do you take part if the only offering we're giving you to take part is you've got to turn up at 7 o'clock on a dark December night and then either sit or stand for an hour? And if you're not able to do that, and what's fascinating about the Worcester Cathedral thing is, look, there's an opportunity. There's a largely elderly audience that are now grabbing this opportunity to take part in a service online, whereas they're not normally turning up when they could have turned up. So I want to make sure that that opportunity exists for everybody. And I think that that opportunity will be taken. So I want to tell them in this pack, here's the order of service. Here's what we're going to be doing. I also want a hand-inscribed tree decoration. So when they send their name in, I want a tree decoration for them to hang on their Christmas tree at home. I want that to be calligraphied or nicely written by a volunteer. And that decoration is also going to have a space for a photo, so a little passport-sized photo. This is a direct steal from a couple of hospices we've worked with. It's an idea that I love. It's brilliant. So it's a piece of cardboard with a name on the back, and there's a hole in there, and the family member drops in a picture of their loved one, and it hangs on the tree. And you can put your brand on it, etc., etc. It's just lovely. It's a really nice, warm thing that we're giving back to people, yeah? And also we're going to give them a flat pack Christmas tree. So that's an image of our tree, but 2 sets of cardboard that go like that and form a 3D one, yeah? And you can sit that. So we're going to give them a little 3D version of our tree to sit in their mantelpiece. And that's because the cost of this Light Up Alive for home pack actually is the postage. The stuff that goes inside, it doesn't really cost that much. So if we're going to send them a little box of stuff, let's make it a really lovely box of stuff, okay? Right, online. Online is absolutely crucial this year. We have to be giving people the opportunity to engage in an act of celebration and remembrance online. I know many hospices have online versions. If I'm blunt and if I'm being brutal, there are very, very few online options that I look at and go, that's magnificent and inspiring and wonderful. There are a few out there. Quite a lot are fairly basic, are not particularly engaging, and the functionality isn't there. So we're going to create for Pebblebeach Hospice, and this is a conversation I've been having with a number of hospices around the country, we're going to create the most magnificent online Light Up Alive option this year because we have to. We're forced into it because we know online is going to be so important. So what we're going to have is, for us, we're going to have a tree image, and that's the kind of tree image that I'm talking about, okay? So when I'm talking about a tree with lights on, that's the kind of tree with lights on that I want to see. So our website is going to take dedications, and those dedications will be searchable. When you dedicate a light, a specific light is dedicated in memory of your loved one, and it will remain that light, that specific light. But it doesn't have to be, as we've seen a number of times, where there's 30 or 40 lights that all look like light bulbs you might screw into your lounge, and they light up, and then a little box pops up with a name in it. What I want is many, many lights that when you search for your light then illuminates. You then click on that light. It then pops up with the picture of the loved one, if that's been uploaded, a dedication, a memory, etc., etc. When people set up that dedication, I want them to then be a link that says, brilliant, now share this on social media, now share this by email, now make a donation. I want it to be inspiring and beautiful so that the person who sets up the light, who sets up the dedication, is then wanting to say to their loved ones and relatives, wow, look at this, I've just done this, go and have a look at it. And I want everyone else arriving to come to the site and go, oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah. Oh, where's Nan's name? Right, we type that in, we find it. Oh, there's Nan. Do I want to add a photo? Do I want to add my own memory of Nan or Mum or whoever it be? Yes, I do. And again, everyone who comes has an opportunity to share that on social media and also has an opportunity to donate as well. And I'd like the donation total to be shown on that. I'd also like that every time someone changes or contributes to that dedication, I want an automatic message going out to everyone who's been involved so far going, oh, Fred's just added another thought about Nan. Do you want to go and see it? Yeah. So again, we use that. Now, the way that that's going to be achieved is twofold in my view. We have to have a website that looks stunning and fantastic and emotive and inspiring and rich. But we also have to have a site that functionally delivers what we need. We have to capture data. We need to capture names of loved ones. We need to capture the names of all those that have participated, and we need to capture money. And so that data has to come back from the website back onto the database, and the money has to come from the website into the bank account. Now, realistically, each individual hospice could go and engage with that and buy that kind of solution. We've talked to a couple of our, we're not a web agency, we don't pretend to be, a couple of agencies that we know. We've talked to one of them that delivers this kind of stuff. The cost of putting this together is between 20 and 30,000 is their estimate of web cost list to get it done properly. Now, as Pebblebeach Hospice, we're not going to invest potentially 30 grand in a website hoping that it works for Light Up Alive. But what we can do is we can join with 9 other hospices who also have trees, and between us we can create a functionally accurate and beautiful website that can then be skinned and branded to our own individual hospice, because between us it costs 3 grand each. That's the kind of investment I'm interested in, and that's the kind of conversation that we've been having with a lot of hospices. We all know we've got to do this stuff properly this year, but we shouldn't. No hospice should be ploughing its own furrow entirely without looking at the option for collaboration. And I know that collaboration has been something that many people have talked to the hospice movement about for many years before. I'm not the first. But if ever there was a time to join together and collaborate and share costs and share experience, in my view, this is a perfect opportunity. This is not something we do. It's something we're going to have to go and get from elsewhere. But in my view, if the hospice movement working together created a Light Up Alive bespoke website that can be skinned to each individual hospice, we would need one that's got an image of a tree with lights on it, and we'd another one that's got a sky with stars in it. Most of us would have our stuff covered by those 2 options. It may be that in future years we then adapt that, etc. But the essential functionality has to work and it has to look beautiful. Okay. So my view is that I want that website. I don't want to pay for the whole thing myself. I'd like to share that with like-minded hospices who have the same kind of vibe, the same kind of images we do, and together let's deliver something that's magnificent for our supporters. Okay. Right, quickly, media. Direct mail appeal to warm. We want it segmented. If you're a Light Up Alive donor, I'm going to talk to you about it. If you're not, we'll talk to you about relationship. We also want a door drop. So in cold, we want to make sure that we go out, reach out to sections of our community, to the best profiled sectors, and say, we're here for you. This is your opportunity to remember and celebrate. We are going to profile that. We have a simple profile where we have a demographic profile of the ideal supporter, someone who's likely to respond to this kind of stuff. And then what we simply do is we overlay that with the hospice database to identify the areas that have got strongest support anyway. You combine the 2 together, that creates your hierarchy. So you don't have to door drop the entire community. You can cherry pick the most obvious opportunities, but I do want to do that. And the reason I'm saying absolutely direct mail and door drop is because there is a significant part of our audience. We've talked about how vital online is, it is, but actually reaching that audience, we've got to reach them through traditional media. All of the crisis, emergency, resilience, fighting fund stuff that we've done, we've seen roughly 50 to 55% of response has come through traditional media. It's been donations in envelopes. It's been people phoning up to make a donation. Some people have responded to our direct mail offer and ask with an online donation, and we've prioritized that. We've pushed them into that where we can. But the majority of people are still responding to a traditional media with a traditional media response. And if we think about our audience, our elderly audience, no matter how much we might flog and sell our wonderful virtual Light Up Alive, and here's our online site with a tree, and we've got this, we're going to live stream, etc., they're not going to see those messages. They are not engaged in that way. They're not using that media. We will not reach them. So the only way to ensure that we've reached all of our audience and everyone that cares about us and that will want to give us money is to ensure that we've covered that through all media. So we're definitely going to use direct mail, and we are going to test some door drop this year as well. We're going to have it on the website. We're also going to have a local paper wrap. The local paper that's going to agree to give us that pull-out supplement, we're going to probably buy, because they probably won't let us have it for free, but we'll get mates rates, the outer cover, yeah, the outside 4 pages. You've seen wraps, you know, advertising various things before. And we're going to buy that in early October about launch, and we're going to sell Light Up Alive. Here's what we're doing. Here's the event. Here's how you can make sure that your loved one is remembered and celebrated as part of that. And we're going to use that local paper wrap. We're also going to look at bus ads as well. So we know that advertising is right down at the moment. So we're going to look for the opportunity for a couple of the buses that go through the city here. We're going to have our Light Up Life message on a big ad on the side of the bus. We're not going to wrap it because it takes ages, costs a fortune. But we think an advert on the side of the bus or a couple of buses is doable. We are going to invest in some Facebook ads as well, targeted Facebook ads. We are going to test those. Beauty of those is you can buy one, see the response rate you get, judge the value of it, and then reinvest in further. But we are going to be testing that. Of course, it'll be all over our social media. We're also going to be talking to local ad shells. So those are the adverts that you see on bus stops, etc., etc. Again, there is a lot of space available in those at the moment, and elsewhere and for other charities, we've been able to get some free space, because particularly now that those spaces are digital, where it's a digital board rather than a physical board, it's dead easy to insert another ad in there and to have the charity. There's a massive digital screen in Brighton, equivalent of a 96-sheeter. Chestnut always gets a place on that every year, because why not? It's easy to do so. So again, if we don't ask, we don't get. So let's look at the opportunities for where we can share this message. Yeah, we're going to make sure we have a PR campaign tied to the fundraising campaign. We want local radio, we want local TV, and we want press as well. And we're fortunate that we've got a head of bereavement services that's willing to do that, because we've told them so. And we've also got a family whose loved one received hospice care before, who've taken part in Light Up a Life, who are willing to talk about that experience and why it's important to remember and celebrate. But we're going to make sure that we give them some media training before we launch that, so that they understand the key messages and they're comfortable talking about it on behalf of the hospice. Timing. We launch on Thursday, the 1st of October. The website, the Light Up Life website, goes live on 1st of October. That's the scary bit. That's less than 4 months away. We would normally spend 3 months on Light Up Live anyway, in normal times. We're talking about the biggest, best, most expansive, most ambitious Light Up Life any of us have ever considered, and it's less than 4 months away that we've got to launch this. So we've got to get moving. We've got to make decisions quickly. We've got to make decisions on creative, on budget, particularly on how ambitious we're going to be, and then we've got to implement those. And we're doing that in the midst, we know, at a time when many of us have got staff colleagues that are furloughed, where we're not sure what's happening. So it's an enormous challenge, but we know we've got to get there. The direct mail will go out on Friday the 9th of October. The door drop is going to land on the 19th of October. The reason for separating that is because for our warm audience, we want the door drop, because there will be overlap. We want the door drop to act as a reminder to the warm. So we know from past experience that often a warm donor will respond to the door drop because it's the, oh yes, I should have done that, shouldn't I? And they'll actually pick up the door drop and respond to that. The cutoff for dedications, because we need the names, because we're going to do all these things for the names, that's the Friday 4th of December, and our event's going to be on Sunday the 13th of December. Classic kind of timings, yeah. Creative. The look of it, overall tree with lights. As I've said, a bloody huge, magnificent tree with lots and lots of lights on it. Or if it's stars in the sky, there's going to be a Milky Way's worth of stars. Or if it's going to be glow sticks hanging, there's going to be all kind of, whatever the lights are, it has to be expansive and magnificent. One of the challenges we have as an agency is that when we first started delivering Light Up Life, there were basically 3 images that everyone was using. Everyone told Hospice UK or Help the Hospices to bugger off. We weren't going to use their Light Up Alive logo, and we were going to use our own. But there was that image of the hands holding the votive candle. So it's black with these hands coming out, you know, with the candle. Or there was the hearts of little candles, or there was that light. But it all was black background, yeah, with lights coming out of it. We've spent 12 years developing a number of ways of showing light that doesn't have to come out of a black background. Again, it's that celebration, it's warmth. So the colors are important. So the way that we demonstrate that, I think, is really important as well. For the direct mail and the door drop, we want to have in that communication, that should be the voices of nurses, families, and if we want celebrities and patrons, if Adele wants to put something in there, she can. But for us, the key voices here are nurses and families. Every Light Up a Life campaign that we've ever delivered, pretty much, has been, the main voice has been from someone on the clinical side, either nursing or bereavement or chaplaincy sometimes, depending on where that resonance is, where the voice is. You will know within your own hospice who the person is that speaks fluently and beautifully and passionately and that really engages, you know. So that's what we want to transmit. But we also want to tell the story of a family who has experienced Light Up a Life, who's experienced hospice care, who can talk about that. We want to show the realities of care. This is what's actually going on. We will still be in the midst of this crisis. We will still be dealing with the pandemic at this point. So let's tell people what's happening. How is care changing? We're still wearing PPE. We're still having to restrict visitors. It's still difficult, but we're gradually moving forward into towards hope and normality. And that's hope for the future. It will be better. It will return. But for now, there is still a challenge. The donation prompts match cost of care. So one of the things that we know, I did 3 sets of Light Up a Life investigation days, or seminar days for Hospice UK about 10 years ago now. And we got lots of hospices together sharing their experience of what they did and how they raised money. And what we found was those hospices that asked people to buy a candle for a minimum donation of £5, average donation was about £9. If they asked for a minimum donation of 10, you got £14 average. If you ask for nothing at all and let people do whatever they want, the average was about 19. It's gone up since then, but this is the kind of the ratio is right. If you actually ask people in Light Up a Life to make a contribution and then tell them what the cost of care is, an hour's IPU costs this, a hospice at home visit costs this, reaching out to a living well patient costs this, and give them specific costs of care, then we would expect our Light Up a Lives, the average gift is around the low 40s. It depends on how many biggies you get, and if you get some extraordinary gifts in there, throw it out. But the mode would certainly be late 30s, early 40s. And you get that by actually talking about what care costs. So we want the donation prompts in there to match that. We're going to give them a dedication form, and we're going to give them a remembrance tag. So that tag is the physical thing you write your words of remembrance on. You can either book in to come and tie that onto our tree when we open that website, and you can come in and with your family, you can come and tie the tree in Nan's memory onto the tree when you're here. But if you can't come or you don't want to, then just send it back to us and we'll tie it on for you. And we explain this obviously through that. And we also then, of course, want to promote the Light Up a Life at Home pack. If you respond to this, here's what we're going to send you. And we'll probably have a little picture of what that looks like in the pack as well. Okay. Right, me shutting up now. Oh, okay, I've lost the sweepstake, haven't I? It's a one-off opportunity to reach new audiences. I honestly believe that if ever you're going to implement that mad idea that you thought about having about Light Up a Life, that is exciting and passionate and dynamic, do it. Do it this year, because we've never got a better chance to explain to our community the relevance and the resonance of hospice care to them and their families. And also, even if people haven't lost a loved one this year, as Sue, the ward sister from St Barnabas in Links, told me a week or so ago when I was interviewing her. She said, what's happened in the last few months, we've all come to realise what's important. And what's important is not the new car or the latest smartphone, it's being with our loved ones. And so for me, Light Up a Life, again, there is an increased resonance and an understanding of the importance of those relationships and the value and the preciousness of the time that we had with our loved ones. So even if you haven't lost someone this year, you have in previous years, and this can be the opportunity to gather together as a community, as a nation, and celebrate, actively celebrate and remember those lives. And we can be, as a movement, the organisations that offer that interactivity on the ground in your community. So I want to extend the hospice reach for Light Up a Life beyond the database. I also want a chance to create a template of work next year and beyond. I think there's, again, we've been forced into a situation, aren't we, where we've got to do online properly this year. So let's do it, but let's make sure that whatever we do is going to carry on and work next year as well. We're not going to spend money just on a one-off. Let's get it right this year because we roll it out for next year. Light Up a Life should be powerful, impressive, and emotive. So that's about copy. It's about the way that we describe it. It's about the imagery. It's about how we talk about care. It's about that tree or the sky or whatever it is, something magnificent, okay? And that final point there, I think it really is, for all of us, Pebblebeach included, this is the most important Light Up a Life any of us will ever work on. So as with all of this stuff, when we've been talking about emergency campaigns or resilience fund campaigns, let's make sure that when we break for Christmas, whatever that's going to look and feel like, let's make sure that we look back and go, do you know what? We did it. We did everything we could. It worked how it worked. We had the engagement we had. We made the money we did. But we look back and we go, that's good enough. That was it. That's what we could do. We delivered everything we possibly can. And we look back and go, yeah, we got that right. Okay. So this is me shutting up now. Sermon ends here. Obviously, for us, we are working with a number of hospices already on Light Up a Life. And for some hospices, again, we are doing the entire thing. For others, we're just delivering the direct marketing elements of it. We are here to support every hospice. And my clear message for those that you heard me speak before, if you can do this stuff internally with your existing resource and you can do it magnificently, then go. Do it. Take our advice. Come and ask us questions. Pick our brains. Go and deliver it magnificently. But if you can't, if you don't have the resource, if you've had to furlough staff, if you haven't got specialists in individual giving, for example, then reach out and grab that expertise, whether it's us or somebody else. We would love to work with a number of, as many hospices as we can. We're limited in our physical capacity. There's only 6 of us. And so there's a certain amount of work that we're physically able to take on, knowing that we can deliver it. So if anyone wants to come to us about Light Up Alive, that's absolutely lovely, but it needs to be soon because we're going to fill our capacity quite quickly. We're happy to offer advice and support to everybody, but if you need us to do anything for you, we can, but you need to let us know quite soon. If you've got any questions and you want to ask us about anything else on any of these things, consultancy, individual giving, trust, foundation, corporates, events, we do all this stuff, come and ask us. The other thing we're going to do is about webinars. We've done 3 so far. I'm going to find out in a minute whether you found this one useful or not, or whether I'm just talking at a blank screen. If these are helpful, and if you as the hospice movement would like these to continue, we welcome your input. We're going to email all of you with some ideas about the topics for future webinars, but also ask you to add stuff in if we haven't covered it ourselves. And what we'll do is basically take a poll of everyone. So whatever you decide you'd like to hear about, whether it's trust fundraising during the pandemic, for example, and how we get COVID-19 funding, whatever, that seems to be something that people are talking about. Whatever your interest is, let us know. As long as these are interesting to you, and as long as these are informative and valuable, we'll continue to do them, okay? So let us send out a list of copies. Let us know what you want to see covered, okay? And finally, thank you. I hope that was useful for you. I'm now going to, there we go, screen stops, there you go. Stop, there you go. Right, I've unmuted you all. Hello, was that all right? I've unmuted you all. Hello, was that all right?
Amazing.
Brilliant, thank you.
You're very welcome. Right, so I can, you're very welcome. So I can deal with you all. So if you would please, any questions you've got, please put those in the chat function, and Amy and Chelsea are going to deal with those, okay?
Ash, we've got loads of questions, but you can mute everybody.
Yeah. Right, Amy, I've unmuted you.
Thank you. Yes, we have lots of questions. So
I've unmuted you.
I'm assuming you don't need a break because you should be perfectly fine to carry on.
You know what? I'm on a roll. Who wants to stop now? Come on.
Exactly. We could be here for a few hours, but not. Okay, you ready, Ash?
Yeah. Who won the sweepstake, by the way? How long did I go for?
I mean, I was thinking it was going to be.
Who had 3 hours? Right. Yeah. Okay. Go on then.
All right. So one of the questions that we have been asked by people that we're working with, which I think is probably something everybody's thinking about this year as well, would you suggest door dropping an appeal letter / a leaflet? That's from Emily, I think, John Taylor?
Yes, bluntly. The kind of levels of response that we've been seeing from internal audiences for the appeals we've been doing, we've been getting between something like 3, 4, even 5 times the level of response that we'd normally expect to see. And therefore, for our internal audiences, it means that we can go much further down the hierarchy. The people that look a lot less likely to respond in normal times are actually going to be responsive. But equally, we don't know who out there is going to want to respond and not. If you think about the relationship that you will have with the audience, someone dies and is cared for by the hospice. There are a number of people in their social circle and family that then choose to engage and interact with the hospice. But quite often, you get a tiny proportion. You might have one person in the family that takes all the collections, etc., that gives the money. So we already know that our relationship with the community is much wider than actually exists on our database. So again, if ever there was going to be an opportunity to reach out and say, this is you, this is us, we are together, we are part of the same community, and we have something for you, come and engage, come and take part, come and be part of our, as Colin from Eastbourne, St Wilson Eastbourne was saying to me when I interviewed him earlier this week, we've shown that we're part of our compassionate community. And we love that. We love the fact that this has shown us to be part of something larger. So for me, yes, get out there. I'm not saying, I wouldn't say you door drop everybody, unless, you know what, if you got loads of money and you're a bit bored, fine, go for it. You know, reach out to everybody if you can. If it were me, I would be having that overlay of where's our existing support. It's probably going to be geographically around the hospice in concentric circles. And where's the likely value? And that's going to be based on the demographic profile. So basically, better off areas closer to you are going to be better than poorer areas miles away. Yeah.
Okay, so that was a resounding yes for door drop. It sounds like.
Yeah, go for it. Whatever your budget allows, go for it.
Yeah, and the take up, I suppose, would differ. Leaflets tend to have a less high response rate. They're not a high response rate, regardless of what you're doing.
Yeah, so our door drops, whenever we've done door drops, we've tested this. I mean, I've done huge amounts of work back in the early thousands on door drop, etc. Our door drop approach is to have a depersonalized version of the direct mail pack. It's cheaper because all you need to do is strip out the name bit of it and just have dear friend or dear community member, whatever instead. It costs more to print, but you get 3 times the response that you do from a leaflet. So whenever we've tested a kind of take one version, against something in an envelope with the enclosures in it, the envelope version always wins. It's a bit more expensive, but the ROI is always better.
Okay, so we've had quite a few questions about trees and locations. So this has come from Jill at Isabel, from Claire at Phil's Tuckwell, from Matt at Wildmar. So I think the basic question is, what if you don't have a location for a tree? What if you're considering multiple trees in different locations for people to access them? And Matt asked if they normally have 7 events, which is a huge number.
They do, yeah.
Just concentrate on the one. So I suppose effectively the question is, you know, what kind of logistics should we be looking at? Should we be concentrating on doing one thing really well that everybody can access in different ways, or is the multiple trees, multiple services thing?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Honestly, I don't have an answer to that, because it depends on your resource. It depends on how many people you've got. Depends on your volunteers. Depends on how many staff you've had to furlough, I think. And also, yeah, I get, and I know, we know Wildmar, we know the location of Wildmar well as well, and that's, there's some access difficulties. Other hospices have lights on the side of the building. Some have trees. Whatever you attempt, do it amazingly. Matt, you've got 7 events. I think the largest I've ever seen is, I don't know if anyone's here from Highland Hospice in Scotland. They have 27, I think it is, 27 different events, but there's one on every island, and again, so if you're on Orkney, then it doesn't matter if you're putting something together on the mainland, you're not going to be able to go to it. So you've got to do the Orkney thing, So again, there'll be residents. St Barnabas in Lincolnshire that we worked with for many years, their Light Up a Life is in Lincoln, but Lincolnshire is bloody massive. So if you're in Skegness, you're not going to do that. So how do you actually reach out to that? So whatever your ability to do, I think it's a judgment that every hospice is going to have to make. Do we just do one this year? Do we extend and do a number? But whatever you do it well. That's why, for me, that engagement thing through the direct marketing option, that taking part at home, the live streaming thing is really important. It's why the website is really important. And the learning from us is that it's that opportunity to offer engagement. And what people want is the chance to do something. And it's the physical act of engagement and remembrance and celebration that is important. Yeah. So it's the fact that, if you're at St Bees in Lincoln, the fact that you're walking along with a flaming torch, that's really, really important. But for others, it's simply about being part of something, even if we're sending them a candle and they're lighting a candle at home. Before the postage change, I'm ancient, obviously, so I remember this. Before the postage charges changed and you could actually send lumpy things in envelopes, we used to send candles out. The original pack that would go out to all supporters would have a candle in it, because it was the best way of getting response, because you'd sent them something chunky. Remember, for those of you who are old enough to remember we used to do pen packs. You would have a direct mail thing and you'd send them a pen. We've sent you the pen so that you don't have to find one to fill it in. You did that because it increased response. The candle increased response. We can't do that now. So again, I'm really wanting to give them that opportunity to have something that allows them to take an action of remembrance and celebration, and that's really, really important. The number of events that you do, whatever you can. We're all in a different situation. We've all got to make us. Pebblebeach Hospice, we're lucky. We've got a bloody great car park. We've got one tree. We don't have to worry about it.
But also, as you've mentioned, and I think it's worth stressing this again, the event may not happen. So whatever you do, make sure there's a contingency to be recording an event that may happen without people that can go out across the board. Yeah. Because you could plan for 7 events, but at the end of the day, that may, all 7 of those and all the energy that went into those may not actually.
And I think it's also a point. I know V from St Barnabas and Links is here. Hi V, and V and I've been talking about this stuff for the last week or so. Now, they have a torchlit procession. You can either have a metre-long flaming torch, and you're walking along, there's a pipe band in front of you, and you end up in front of Lincoln Cathedral with a huge Christmas tree, and it's just amazing. And if you haven't seen it, go and look at their website because it's fantastic. What they had done last year is they had a film crew take part in the walk with them. In amongst, they took some overall shots, but they also took some participation shots. And what the St B's are planning to do this year is use that as the engagement opportunity. So they've got that resource. Pebblebeach Hospice hasn't got that. They've got that. So they can offer their supporters the chance to join in with this online march. So you can join in and be part of this procession celebration because they filmed it last year. Now, there's that resource. Now, St B's have said, if that's a resource that other hospices want to look at, if there's an opportunity to take some resource from one hospice and share it amongst other hospices, they're open to that. That's my point about the website as well. We should be looking to share experience and opportunity. None of us compete with each other, unless you're a children's hospice, in which it's like cats in a sack. But, for the adult hospice movement, we're not competing with each other. So where someone's got, some resource or opportunity, let's gather that. And we as an agency are simply here to fill in the gaps where the individual hospices don't have that internal resource. But let's use that power and that opportunity.
Okay. There's been a lot of comments about VisiFund, and I think much loved in terms of doing the trees. Yeah, absolutely. Go with somebody that you feel comfortable with. I think the main gripe from me as the social person, and probably Chelsea as well, is that the functionality on those isn't great. So if you're trying to get people who are potentially older, potentially not as tech savvy to use them, the clunkiness of the back end of those doesn't always lend itself to ease of use. Now, that is to say, they may have improved that over the past year, which would be fantastic. But as the market, I would really encourage you, if you are looking at going with Much Loved and VisiFund, to sort of demand that those updates are made and that you're able to trial and use them.
I would echo that. I think that my concern, I've got no problem. Again, we have no particular relationship with any provider. I don't care where it comes from. I don't care who does the work. And we're not involved in any of that. So we're not going to make no difference to us whatsoever who uses that. I just want those 2 things. I want it to look beautiful and inspiring. And the options that I've seen at the moment don't do that. I also want the functionality to work. I want to capture data. I want to promote sharing on social media, and I want to promote donations as well. And at the moment, none of those really does that. There's some websites around, and what I've seen is quite often the website where you go to that and you've got 30 people have taken part in it, or 35 people, and there isn't a particular it's not something that creates a viral thing. It's not something that people share and go, oh my God, it's amazing, you need to go and look at this. It drags a few supporters that are probably existing supporters, they go and do it, and then that's it, and it just sits there. And there's a version I saw with I think there's a Much Loved one I saw with candles, where it's just a web page with just a white space with lots of candles and just names underneath, and it just looks really weird. It doesn't look like something you'd want to share with anyone.
As the token American here, I will just say the customer is always right. So please use your collective bargaining power to make those platforms be the way they should be. And this is the year to do that, I think. And
that's what I'm saying. I think that if for all of you, that if you're looking at thinking, right, I need an online solution and we do trees, then why don't all of you that do trees together coordinate and approach whichever supplier you feel is the most appropriate one and say, right, we want a solution that works for all of us. And that's what we've been talking to you about with the guys that we've used, that we've brought in when we've needed web for our clients. We spoke to them and said, right, this is the design ethic, this is the functionality that's required, what does it cost? And they said 20 to 30 grand. Now, that may be outrageous, that may be cheap, I don't know, because we're looking at other options as well. But what I know is, from their experience, they will deliver, and they will deliver on time, and it will look beautiful, and it will work. But what I don't want to see personally is every individual hospice having to plough its own furrow and do its own thing. We don't need to do that, particularly in this time. We should be sharing costs. We should be sharing the power of the market that you have. Okay. There will be some compromises that are needed to that. Where hospice collaboration has always fallen down in the past is that someone's got an idea about this and someone wants the tree to be this, or we need a purple background and we want a blue background. There are going to have to be compromises accepted by everyone that says, right, as long as it looks beautiful and it works and it can be skinned and branded to our hospice, I'm happy. And let's get something that works this year. We can finesse it and make it more individual and personal for future years. But this year, we all need something that works, that captures data, that raises money, that looks beautiful and inspiring. And as long as we can achieve that, I don't care who delivers it, I don't know who buys it, I just want as many people to have that as possible. And if we share the ethic, if we share the work, then that's how it's going to be delivered. Who coordinates that? That's going to be the challenge. We can coordinate that. You know, Hospice Income Generation Network could coordinate that if they had anyone to do it. That's the problem. You know, they're all busy working for their own hospices. There isn't the staff there. Hospice UK could do it, but they haven't got any staff. They're not going to put staff in to dedicate that. So there is a logical challenge there about someone has to coordinate this activity on behalf of a number of hospices, where all those hospices are saying, do you know what? Fine. As long as it looks nice and it works well, crack on. That's the challenge.
So one of the, people are having to go off to other meetings. How dare they? I don't know what they would want to do.
More important than this.
So people are heading off. In the meantime, what we could look into, we use something called Basecamp to share files and stuff. So people have asked about seeing some of our past campaigns. I think that's absolutely fine. We'd be happy to add you to a folder of past campaigns where the hospices are happy to share some of their campaign materials.
Yeah.
And we can put them up and you can have a look at them if you'd like. It may be a space, there's text files and things in there as well, so you can share information there too. Possibly one last question then, and this follows on from the back of the website because it's expensive. Since all of the stuff that you've suggested here, Ash, including Adele singing, requires more investment, how do you suggest that all of these lovely fundraisers go and pitch this to execs, trustees, and their board?
At gunpoint? Yeah, that's your challenge, isn't it? None of it, I've got no evidence to say that if you do this, it's all going to work. What I can give you is evidence that where we have worked and supported hospices with Light Up a Life in the past, we have been able, through data segmentation, strong messaging, etc., we've been able to significantly increase income in the majority of cases, not all the time. It hasn't worked every time, but in the majority of cases, we've increased income. In some cases, significantly increased income. And also, we have the evidence that people are wanting to respond to support their local healthcare organisation and their frontline nurses at the moment. And also the fact that bereavement and loss is very much at the forefront of people's minds. And we know that for the resilience campaigns that we've delivered, we're seeing, as I say, 3, 4, 5 times the level of response that we've seen previously. So all that evidence leads me to the conclusion that we should try and do the best thing we possibly can. I'm not saying spend £1 billion. I am also saying that we should go and get pro bono where we can. But I am saying that we should have an ambition to deliver a message to our entire community and to invest in the promotion and response to that allows people to see it and understand it, have the opportunity to take part, and then we give them a great experience of remembrance and celebration once they do that. Now, for me, my simple message to trustees would be, you've seen how the clinical has delivered that. Clinical has reached way out beyond the walls. most of your hospices will have been taking patients at the local hospital and caring for them. Most of your bereavement teams will have broken down those barriers and broken down those walls and offered their service to the entire community. Why would we now not continue that? For this light up alive, for this act of remembrance, why would we not want to do that? I don't want to spend a fortune. We need to work with a budget, but I do want to have the ambition to reach out so that, again, if we get to Christmas and go, do you know what? We offered everyone the opportunity to take part. We told them we were here. We showed them the opportunity. We gave them the chance to remember and celebrate. And we made that experience as rich and as powerful as it possibly could be. That's what we did. Then let's make some sensible decisions for next year. And as I always say, we've been the partner where a hospice is engaged in individual giving, for example, a direct mail pack or whatever it may be, for the first time. And if you've worked with us, you'll have heard me say this. Let's do it properly. Let's make sure we do all the work on audience and proposition and media and timing and creative. Let's make sure that whatever we send out is as magnificent as we can. Because if it doesn't work, fair enough. We can then look at that and go, okay, we've learned. Brilliant. Here's how we're going to change our investment in different fundraising streams for the future. But what we do not want is to invest in any kind of activity and look back if it hasn't worked and go, yeah, is that because maybe we should have done that? Maybe we should have been that. I don't want any maybes. I don't want any doubts. I want us to know that whatever the scope we aspire to this year, whatever we deliver it magnificently and with passion and enthusiasm. And so we look back and go, there you go. That's a benchmark. That helps me make sensible decisions in years to come. Sorry, get me soapbox about this sometimes. Guys, someone asked about sharing the slides. Yes, we will absolutely. We'll share the slides. Everyone will email those around to absolutely everybody. They'll also be available on our website in a news section to download as well.
We'll put, as I mentioned in the chat, we will put the webinar up. YouTube takes longer and longer these days to put videos up. I think because everybody's at home or something. I don't know, but we will put it up as soon as we can, as soon as it's done downloading.
So I know that many people have got to go. Thank you very much for your time. I'm sorry it's gone on an hour and 10 minutes. I did promise to be short and sharp this week and completely failed, as usual. Those of you who know me will have expected that anyway. I hope this was useful for you. As I said, please do email us, hello@pebblebeachfundraising.com if you don't already have our personal email addresses. Just say hi, come and ask a question, come and pick our brains if you need to. If you want to talk about us supporting you, we're here to help. We can do that, but we need to know it reasonably quickly. If you're looking to ask us for something, come and have that conversation soon, please, because we are going to get full, okay? So whatever you do, however you do this, we wish you luck, we send you our love, and we send you our best wishes. Go and be magnificent. Go and be the fantastic, passionate fundraisers you all are. And we look forward, I absolutely look forward to reconvening in kind of January, February, and looking back on, this is how the hospice movement took ownership of the nation's remembrance and celebration. And Marie Curie and Macmillan have given up trying to do that because they see that they can't possibly compete with the hospice movement because every single hospice engaged, and together we provided the whole country with the chance to remember, celebrate, and mourn and grieve in an appropriate way. Right, guys, I'm going to say goodbye now. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Waving to you. And to swing, why do we wave? Chelsea was saying, why do we wave at the end of Zoom calls? Well, this is mad, isn't it? It's like we wouldn't do that in a meeting.
I do it for every physical meeting I have in the future. Just walk out the room.
Okay, it's like the Muppets. Bye, guys. Thank you very much indeed. Let us know if you need anything. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye now.
Thank you.